Akiva Rubinstein was born in Stawisky, a rural town in northeast Poland. His family was so poor they had to send him to live with grandparents in Białystok, the regional capital. Akiva lived in a simple house in the Jewish section. He was expected to study the Torah and the Talmud, but he soon became interested in another subject. Akiva said he became fascinated by an old chess book he found. This may have been an obscure manual called Sehok Hashak by Joseph Sosnitz. According to historian Akiva Fett, Rubinstein became so strong he started playing chess against himself. Akiva's chess ability reached the ears of Chaim Janowski, who convinced him to come to Lodz in 1902. By 1906, Rubinstein was better than Solvay, and in 1907 he shared first with Bernstein at Ostend, his first big international success. Later that year, Rubinstein competed at Carlsbad, a super-strong tournament. Every top master was there, except world champion Lasker. With just one round to go, Rubinstein led Geza Maragsi by 1 point. He only needed a draw to win the tournament. In the final round, Maragsi beat Janowski, and Rubinstein faced Wolf, who was notorious for draws. With a draw against Wolf, Akiva would win clear first. Maragsi was horrified when Wolf offered Akiva an early draw. The gallery was stunned when Rubinstein refused. When the game eventually reached a drawn position, Rubinstein had won the tournament. Akiva was asked why he hadn't accepted Wolf's draw offer. Against Wolf, I make a draw when I want to, not when Wolf wants to. This was a stunning achievement. Rubinstein had beaten some of the best chess masters in the world. Not only Maragsi and Janowski, but also Aaron Nimzowitsch, Frank Marshall, Rudolf Spielmann, and Karl Schlechter. Christmas 1907 promised to be a particularly festive season for Polish chess fans. Rubinstein was already a superstar, and the All-Russian Championship was about to begin in Lodz. However, chaos prevailed in the streets. Since the Russian Revolution of 1905, Poland had been in an often violent state. Socialists had barricaded the streets, and Russian troops seemed to be everywhere. Chess journalists working for the field couldn't get the tournament scores out of Poland because police suspected the chess notation was secret code. At the Lodz Chess Club, however, Rubinstein had no trouble concentrating. He became the All-Russian champion and produced his immortal game against fellow Polish master Jerzy Rotlewi. Rubinstein takes the black pieces and produces his masterpiece. Rook d2, deflecting the queen, gets 4 exclamation points from Mikhail Botvinnik. And fine. And Chernev. And Kmok. The deflection of the queen allows for a brilliant forced win. Rook h3 is the final nail in the coffin. Chigorin's death was deeply felt throughout the Russian Empire, including Poland. He had been a benefactor to Polish chess players, promoting their participation in the All-Russian Championships. Peter Saburov organized a great tournament to honor the Russian master. St. Petersburg 1909 featured world champion Emanuel Lasker in his first tournament in 5 years. Anticipation was high. Lasker faced the Polish champion Rubinstein for the first time. In round 3, Rubinstein took the white pieces against the champion. Few believed the Pole had any real chance of beating Lasker. Rubinstein keeps Lasker on his heels, forcing him down to a tricky but winning endgame. Rubinstein had just made beating the world champion look easy. To the delight of Poland, he won the tournament, shared first with Lasker. Akiva was now among the top 3 players in the world, and a serious candidate for a world championship match. In 1909, according to chess metrics, Akiva was second only to Lasker. However, the champion was allowed to choose his opponents and demand terms. Challengers had to find sponsors to satisfy the champion's financial demands. Even worse, the champion could insist that the challenger lose in the case of a tie. In 1910, it was Schlechter, not Rubinstein, who got a shot at the title. The match was only 10 games, because Lasker demanded 1,000 marks per game. Karl couldn't afford to raise more. The match finished in a tie, so Lasker remained world champion. Later that year, Akiva watched from the sidelines again as Polish master Dawid Janowski played Lasker for the title. Janowski had many rich friends and had no trouble raising stakes for the match. He failed to win a single game. In 1911, Akiva played in a powerful event at the seaside resort of San Sebastian. Tournament director Jacques Mises ensured this would be a powerful affair by restricting entry to players who had won or placed highly in previous master-level events. This was a momentous occasion, the debut of José Raúl Capablanca. Capablanca had already destroyed all-American opposition, and many considered him a serious rival to world champion Lasker. Finally, he would play in Europe for the first time. Or would he? Russian master Osip Bernstein complained that the Cuban invader was not strong enough to play in such an event. Luckily, especially from the perspective of Polish chess fans, Mises overruled the Russian's objection. Rubinstein couldn't wait to get at the Cuban. In fact, he had previously arranged to play a match with Capablanca at the end of 1909, but the match never happened. Nobody is sure why. At any rate, in round 13, Akiva took the white pieces and gave the Cuban a chess lesson. Like Lasker, Capablanca had fallen to the Polish champion. Rubinstein finished shared second, just a half point behind the Cuban master, who triumphed in his European debut. According to Hans Kmock, a strange incident occurred after the tournament. Rubinstein and Mises met on a train. Akiva told him he was going to see a doctor, and Mises asked him why. "It's only because of a fly. It keeps landing on my head and distracting my play." This may have been the start of psychological problems that would later plague and even cripple Rubinstein. However, Akiva stayed in fine form over the chessboard. In 1912, he astonished the chess world by winning several strong events in a row. Lasker couldn't ignore Rubinstein any longer. The world champion made arrangements to play Akiva for the title. By 1914, however, the Lasker-Rubinstein match had not yet been finalized. Instead, Rubinstein joined Lasker in Capablanca at St. Petersburg, his first tournament in over a year. The event was divided into two separate parts. Only the top finishers from the first stage would qualify for the finals. Lasker and Capablanca received extra money just for showing up, but not Rubinstein. Akiva was rusty, and by the fifth round, he had to win to have any real chance of advancing to the finals. Rubinstein's back was against the wall, especially since he now had to play this man. Alexander Aliekin had not reached his true potential, but he was already a chess assassin. In the fifth round, Rubinstein took white against Aliekin. Knight h6 check loses a piece, and the game. Rubinstein did not qualify for the final. World champion Lasker finished first, followed by Jose Capablanca, Siegbert Tarrasch, Alexander Aliekin, and Frank Marshall. At St. Petersburg, the victorious Lasker gave word that a world title match with Rubinstein would be held that fall. In the meantime, Akiva accepted an invitation to play in the 19th German Chess Congress at Mannheim. However, Akiva later demanded a 500 gold mark appearance fee. Perhaps he was feeling fed up at not getting the same respect as Lasker and Capablanca. Tournament director Hermann Romig was furious at Akiva's demand. He refused, and Rubinstein did not play. Two Polish masters, however, did play at Mannheim: David Janowski and Alexander Flamberg. Mannheim came to a sudden stop when Germany declared war on Russia. The Russian players were interned at Triberg, including Flamberg, since Poland was part of the Russian Empire. But the players were not treated harshly. In fact, they ended up at a nice hotel in Baden-Baden, where they promptly organized a chess tournament. Flamberg triumphed, first over Bogoljubov. In 1916, Flamberg got to return home, since the Germans had conquered Poland. There was one other master at Mannheim who would become famous in Polish chess history. Savieli Tartakower was born in Russia but lived in Vienna. When Mannheim was suspended, he joined the Austrian army and managed to survive the Great War. Years later, Polish chess fans would be grateful for his good fortune. Poland was almost obliterated by the war. As the Russians retreated, they burned the cities and the land, so the Germans would find neither food nor shelter. 250,000 Polish people starved to death. A further 120,000 were killed in the fighting. It would be years until Polish culture could rise from the ashes.